Is it true that I want to have the right to my own worldview? Yes, it is true. It is true that I want to have the right to my own worldview. Is it true that you want to have the right to your worldview? Is that true? Yes, I suppose that is true. It is true that we want to have the right to our own world view. We want to have the right to our own world view. I want to have the right to see God as I see God. I want to have the right to see life as I see life. I want to have the right to see people as I see people. I want to have the right to see ultimate reality as I see ultimate reality. I want to have the right to acknowledge the fact that I recognize the things that I call truth in this life. I want to have that right. And I'm very sure that most other people, too, want to have that right. So what does that mean? Well, it means that we have to develop the acceptance on the world as a mosaic. You know, the world is a mosaic. Every brain is different, every mind is different, and we have our own worldview, and we have our own situation within the position in the center of our own worldview. I mean, we are a tiny little center, you know, inside our own world perception and also inside our own world conception. I mean, we conceive the world because we perceive it. We make our own concept of the world according to what we perceive. And we perceive not only the world as it is, we perceive what the human program allows us to perceive. That's one thing. And second thing is that we perceive also the things that has a certain relationship to our past, to our history. So there's patterns of interpretation inside our brain. We see things because we have memory. The already downloaded world experience influences our present moment experience, and that's just how it is. That's why people are different, even if we are the same within our inner architecture. Even if the inner architecture is the same, even if the psychological, emotional architecture, if the architecture of the human program is the same in each and every one of us, it is still true that we have a different worldview and a different conception of the world simply because we have different history. We have experienced the world in different ways, and the way that we have experienced these ways, in the ways that we have experienced the world shapes our brain because it develops patterns of interpretation. Interpretation patterns that relates to history, to already downloaded information. So we're all different. And we have to admit that it's good for people to have the right to both control their own worldview and to choose their own worldview, but also to feel that, well, I'm the owner of my worldview. You know, I see it in this way. This is an eternal problem because we have ideological warfare everywhere, and there's political and intellectual and ideological conflicts everywhere. And that should not be a problem if people are grown up enough and aware of this fact that we all have different worldviews, and if it is true that I want to have the right to my worldview, then I have to accept that other people want that too. If you want to have the right to your worldview, then you have to accept that for other people it's the same. They want that too. They want to live inside their own worldview too. So we have to develop a society, a global world society, that accepts this and that is not abusive. we can damage each other by insulting each other. For me, that's fine. I don't see any problem with that. The problem is physical damage and emotional abuse. Physical damage and emotional and psychological abuse. That is not okay. But to have open debate where we can be intellectually damaged in a way because I insult you and you insult me, that's fine. That's just a part of democracy. That's a part of dialogue. And we are all avatars in this life. You know, everything is a hologram. Even the human being is a hologram in some way or another. So, I mean, the mental life of the human being is in many ways a hologram, and we are, as incarnations, avatars of the ultimate reality that is within us. And because of the way that ultimate reality connects and expresses itself through the already downloaded information that came to each and every one of us in different ways during our upbringing, childhood, and life in general. So that's just how it is. The world is a mosaic, and the world is a certain set of individuals which all have different worldviews, and they experience themselves in different ways. So we have to accept this tolerance, we have to accept this flexibility. There are one religion in this world who's not too clever to accept that, and who punishes people with death or with prison or with other quite horrible punishments, simply because they are not ready to accept that people are different. They're not ready to accept that people have different worldviews. They're not ready to accept that we will talk about God in the way that we need to talk about God. Because God lives in all of us. God is inside the ultimate reality that is the heart that surrounds God as a phenomenon that is also a non-phenomenon, you know. The existence and the non-existence of God is one and the same thing inside the ultimate reality, where both options are possible, same like matter and antimatter. Well, that was just blah blah, never mind. But we all have to accept that we want different stories, and we want to be the person who accepts and rejects. We want to be the person who says that, well, for me it's like this. I want it to be like this. In my life, I want it to be like this. I believe in this. If that is true for me, then I have to accept that it is true for you too. So that I should stop punishing other people in a bad way, to insult other people, to talk to other people in a debate. For me, as I said before, that's fine. We need insults. There's nothing wrong with insulting each other, because we're all avatars anyway. We're all versions of ourselves. There's nothing wrong with insults. There's nothing wrong with hard debate. There's nothing wrong with defamation in some way. It's healthy, it's good for intellect. But abuse and imprisonment and death and corporal punishment and psychological and emotional abuse, that is a completely different story. And we won't have that. So we need to develop systems and religions and mindsets of people who can see this and say that, yes, well, if it's true that I want the right to my worldview, then I have to accept the fact that you also want the right to have your worldview. So the world is a mosaic, and we can all develop our inner life, our inner models, in the way that we find truthful and authentic and genuine and original and meaningful and true for us. So we need to accept this. If it is true that I want to have the right to live with my worldview, then I have to accept that you and other people want to have your right and their right to their own worldview. We have to accept that if we want to have the right to our worldview, we also have to accept that other people want the same thing. And this should be very ABC, this should be very basic. But unfortunately, it's not. And people are punished all over the world, every day. Politically, ideologically, religiously, people are punished, people are killed, people are imprisoned, people are executed, people are tortured, simply because the little animal that we call the human being, the little child who lives inside so many of these idiot generals or idiot politicians or idiot leaders around the world, who has not yet matured in any intellectual way at all, who has no true cognition of what it means to live inside the human program. Because they are so blind that they cannot see that what we need to do is to respect the inner life of the human being and to give that value, to give the inner life of each individual value, so that he or she can develop their own worldview in their own way, in their own style, to their own benefit and to the benefit of the whole world. Because within the world as a mosaic, we can all benefit from each other, and we can share in a beneficial and fruitful way. Okay. Yes. Thank you.